Well, in order for a child to be adopted, the Ethiopian government has to deem the child an orphan. CWA does not do that. The Ethiopian government reserves that right to themselves. A local court, 3 witnesses, state court, MOA investigates, and then, when all that's concluded, the United States government does an I-604 investigation verifying the orphan status of a child. Now, could it be that a parent who wants his child or her child to come to America could beat that system? Is that possible? I would imagine in the thousands of adoptions that have taken place from Ethiopia, that rare exception might have occurred where a parent lied to the Kabli, got witnesses to lie to the Kabli, lied to the state, gave false documentation, and then still managed some way to not get caught in the screening that is done by the U.S. government. I imagine that could happen. I guess what I would wonder is 2 things. The parent is provided pictures, the same video, if you will, graphic evidence that CWA would look at to question whether an age was accurate. Why wouldn't the parent raise the issue?
Well,
Second issue.
In fact, one family that we've talked to were told by CWA that the children were 4, 6 and 7. They questioned the ages, and finally Michelle Gardner said to them, the eldest is definitely no older than 9. I've met them myself, reassured them when they went to pick them up. The children were 6, 11 and 13. That's a huge discrepancy. A 13-year-old, the difference between a 7-year-old and a 13-year-old is a huge discrepancy. Can you explain how CWA presented a 7-year-old?
And this is another secret.
13-year-old as a 7-year-old.
Is this another secret witness?
No, it's not.
This is someone that you know and you're willing to tell me their name?
I'm not going to tell you their name now because
Okay. Well, let me say this.
You said that you can't talk about any case.
Sure. If that occurred, did you ask them why they moved through the I-600 process? Do you know what that is?
Yes, I did,
Okay.
because they
How
had
could a
already
parent-
adopted them through the Ethiopian courts.
That has nothing to do with it. How does a parent, Marianne, who believes a fraud has been perpetrated, swear to the U.S. government that they believe the child is an orphan if they have information to believe they are not? How does that
I'm
happen?
not talking about orphans at the moment, I'm talking about the age discrepancy.
I'm sorry, I thought you said in a caring, loving, well cared for environment. That's what you said. Didn't you say these children came from a well cared for?
They came from a middle class educated parents, but these
So that's my
people
question.
did not know that until their children began to speak English.
Okay, so then how would CWA know that?
Because their story, they tell us that
Because
their
whose
father
story?
was actually, this is the children's story themselves. They tell us that they saw money go from a CWA employee to their father.
Do you know how ridiculous this is? You could make this up as you go along. These children could make this up as you go along. And that is exactly the problem with the flyaway video piece. I moved through it, and I was shocked by the number of things. You obviously are an articulate, intelligent person. I've looked at your history. You've won major awards. I actually know very well what you're doing. And I was just shocked as I moved through the flyaway piece. And I say this respectfully, not out of anger, but I was shocked at the number of blatant inaccuracies in the piece. And it's things just like this. It's secret witnesses, it's the massaging of numbers. There was a statement in the flyaway piece that says this. It says, and I'll quote it for you, "Adoptions in Ethiopia are a completely unregulated industry." Do you stand by that?
Yes, I would. Yes.
You believe that adoptions in Ethiopia...
There are major flaws in the Ethiopian system.
Now, that's a different thing, isn't it? Now, one could say there are major flaws, but don't you think it's an exaggeration to say it's a completely unregulated industry?
It's a completely unregulated industry. No, I don't think that's an exaggeration.
Okay.
And experts within the field would agree.
Well, I think when you say a completely unregulated industry, that most people are going to read it as there is no regulation. The fact is, I can show you a whole stack of Ethiopian law. It moves through each of their court systems, MOA,
Why
and then the
then
U.S.
are there numerous women? Why then did we find a room full of women who had been lied to by adoption agencies, not just CWA, but had been lied to by adoption agencies, told that they would be in regular contact with their children, that they would be, you know, that their children would return to them when they were 18. They had no concept of adoption.
Yeah. Marianne,
Why is that the case?
right. And you and I and CWA would agree that, first of all, adoptions should be handled with care. And we would agree that adoptions in Ethiopia can and should be done better. And a key problem is that there is an Ethiopian law that requires that parents get reports at 3 and 6 month intervals, and then annually thereafter.
These people actually are led to believe that they will hear regularly from their children. They will receive phone calls, they will receive letters from their children.
That's absurd. Yeah, that's absurd. And that shouldn't be.
We've spoken to numerous families who say that they've suffered intimidation from CWA if they've questioned any element of the process. Why is CWA so defensive?
Have I been defensive?
Well, for example, nobody would speak to us originally. Nobody even bothered to respond to our initial requests or any contact that we made with CWA. Why are they so defensive?
I'm not presuming that they are defensive. I think quite the contrary. I think they have a grievance policy. I think they follow it. I think parents do sometimes have legitimate concerns, and I've seen CWA investigate those concerns and sit down with parents and try to work them out. So I guess we're on two different pages again.
Well, I've seen web boards where CWA CEO Tommy Lee Harding has attacked families, you know, who criticise CWA, and she's done it using Christian rhetoric, saying things like telling them the devil is working in them and claiming they're not fit to adopt if they criticise. Well, I mean,
Do you have
what do you think?
an email that you can show me where Tommy Lee said, if you
Yes.
criticize, you're not fit to adopt,
I can.
and the devil is in you?
Yep.
I appreciate when you can do that.
We are not a public entity or a private entity or a government entity. We do not have to work with a family who is obnoxious, are spreading fear and rumours. And today we are revoking the list access to people who are causing problems. So anybody who causes a problem or, you know, asks too many questions is threatened.
I was still looking for your devil comment.
Actually, the devil comment, I think, came from one of the workers.
I thought you said Tommy Lee did it. While you're looking, let me ask you a question. I guess I'm perplexed as to the direction of the conversation.
Well, I just think
this
this is constantly said to me in the numerous conversations that I've had with CWA.
Did you find
clients.
these emails? I never did see them.
I'll show. I mean, I will show it to you. Sorry, I can't just find it just at the moment.
When you get opportunity, would you kindly provide them for me?
Just make sure it's second version.
Pardon?
Second version. Thanks.
This is my personally feeling is that Saturn hates what we are doing for the children of Ethiopia. He knows he can cause discontent, fear, anger, and anxiety among our families through the web board.
So is that what you interpreted as somebody saying the devil is in you?
Well, it's
Or is that another exaggeration by ABC?